How's it going, guys? Arthas here, and in this video I'm going to talk about the huge difference in skill level between a legend player and a divine player. Also, I will be explaining about what it takes to reach that divine medal and why you're stuck at a so-called medal, be it an archon medal or a legend one. Initially in this game, the legend player is playing the anti-mage and the divine player was spectating his game for the first half of it. Then, when the game started to become more and more Radiant favored, the divine player took over the game just to show him how bad he was playing anti-mage, especially with the lane that he got at the start, and proceeds to own the game from there. It's pretty interesting to see how calm and composed he was during this entire time, and how smoothly he transformed the game merely by observing the position of the Radiant and Dire side players and getting some pickoffs. It looked like he was in some kind of autopilot mode, like he wasn't even breaking a sweat. Well, moving on to the first half of the game, from the laning phase, which as I mentioned earlier was played by the legend player, you can see how unfocused he was from the start of the game, and he was trying to get some harass onto the Nyx instead of focusing on getting some last hits. In the end, neither did he manage to get any decent harass, nor did he get those crucial last hits which could propel him to get an early treads or a ring of health. He was just mindlessly walking back and forth, and after missing a couple of the last hits, he decides it's better he just farms and let the Earth Spirit do the harass. Well, it's not ideal, but it's very hard to get a laning stage like this as an anti-mage, because you are highly contested in lane and you are usually deprived of getting any decent farm in the early stage. But even after he set his mind to farming, instead of doing anything funny, you can notice how many last hits he missed, even with a quelling blade, which is really painful to watch. He would have missed about 5 to 6 last hits already. I'm almost sure a divine player would not have missed any of these, especially when it was not even being contested in the first place. Anyhow, the laning stage goes somewhat decent, but then the equilibrium gets completely screwed up once again. There was no creep pull being made. Of course, the anti-mage could have made this pull himself, but that's the presence of mind which he didn't have with him, sadly. This mess that he made for himself gets even worse when 3 range creeps and a huge wave eventually ends up at the side of the Dire. All of this gets converted to huge EXP and gold for the Nyx. Then comes the important tip. As a carry player, you always need to remember to do this. But it should only be done if your support player is not performing it, or is just AFK, or just for some reason not in your lane. Just 10 seconds before the 5-minute mark, you should push out the wave and go for a stack and try to get the double bounties. Almost every player I have seen in Legend Medal and below forget to do this, and usually they remember some 10 seconds after the 5-minute mark, and that is also because the daytime shifts to nighttime and they go for the bounty runes. Any half decent player who remembers the spawn time would have taken them already, and you would just end up wasting another 10 seconds doing nothing, getting no EXP or gold. And you must be wondering that this legend player managed to do it, right? It's great, right? But that is only because the divine player instructed him to do so. Then the anti-mage keeps messing up more and more, and eventually the Nyx ends up getting more last hits and an arcane boots. Now, due to this, he can pressure the anti-mage even more than he could do so before, and he keeps spamming his impale at every 14 seconds, which in turn makes the anti-mage to lose around 2 creeps in every creep wave under the tower. He just starts to become a really annoying insect, which is what is expected from him if he's left unchecked like this. Now, for instance, the divine player did play this first half, he would not have let this Nyx do whatever he wants, especially considering the fact that anti-mage has higher base damage than the Nyx. You should see that anti-mage has about 21 to 56 base damage, while the Nyx has only 46 to 50. He would have harassed him whenever the Nyx came near to get some last hits, or tried to fake an attack on him to trick him into using his spite carapace. You could see this Nyx was actually very cautious of losing mana, and he was using his spite carapace pretty prematurely, even when the anti-mage wasn't really even trying to hit him. So the divine player would have surely abused this fact and then right-clicked him hard to remove any remaining mana that he had and almost certainly zoned him out of the lane. He would not have missed those last hits, and he would have manipulated the creep equilibrium and also possessed far higher numbers in terms of denies, thus making sure that his arcane boots is seriously delayed for him to have any type of impact against anti-mage's smooth laning phase. Anyway, getting back to a legend player's point of view, I was glad to see that he decided to go treads instead of rushing a Battle Fury, because rushing Battle Fury at this point would mean he would be very susceptible to ganks, especially considering the fact that Nyx has already reached this level 6. So the next player did the right thing over here. He saw his mid laner was losing the lane real hard and went over to get a nice kill on the KOP and ease some pressure on the lane. So Storm could catch up, and then as soon as his work is completed, he came back top and started harassing the anti-mage again, which is the right play here, and he kept repeating these set of actions, so props to him. It was nice to see the Earth Spirit finally decided to do something decent for a change, and he ganked top for the first time in 10 minutes when his ultimate was up, and gave the anti-mage a huge kill as well as 30 seconds for some free undisturbed farming time. It is nice that Anti-Mage decided to last it on the Crystal Maiden. While it is a KS, it is still the right move as he needs to accelerate on Battle Fury timing as the 15-minute mark is fast approaching. Once again, the Anti-Mage wastes about 2 minutes doing nothing and getting no real farm. He just walks back and forth thinking he can get a kill, but at this point of time, when he is so close to getting a Battle Fury, it's always best if he just farmed the woods, because if he died here by any chance, he would be giving away a lot of gold and his item timing is going to be thrown out of the window. Then there was this fight, which was good at the start because the Storm Spirit overstepped, but then after the Anti-Mage got the kill on him, he should have wisely backed off. He should have known that the kill on the Crystal Maiden was risky, but he stuck to it, and the Nyx finished him off and got a huge bounty for it, ending his 3x kill streak. Even if the Nyx did not have his Blink Dagger, he would have still gotten the kill on the Anti-Mage. Then the game starts to become real messy, and the Storm respawns and finishes off the QOP. The Ursa blinks and kills the Lion and the Earth Spirit. Then for some odd reason the Kunkka decides to TP right into the middle of the fight. Everyone is already dead and makes a failed combo on the Nyx and gets himself killed. The real fun part begins when an Anti-Mage TPs into the fight as well, and luckily he did blink away, but he had no more business there. He should either split push as all 5 of them were hitting on the mid tower, or he should have just went to the woods to farm, but he was just hopelessly watching the tower die and was completely lost at this point of the game. Now, the Divine player who was watching all of this and yelling at the Legend player decided to take over the game, and you can see an instant change in his gameplay and his approach. He didn't give a shit about the tower and just blinked away to farm. Then as he was farming, notice where his point of view is. He wasn't looking at the creeps, he's simply looking at his prey. Right now his prey was the Crystal Maiden, and now to get the kill on her, he needs the Nyx to not interfere, so he instantly blinks in and mana voids the Nyx to get them all real low as he gets away, and the Anti-Mage makes quick work of the Crystal Maiden and then proceeds to kill the Ursa as well. Notice how he realizes that he's going to need a lot of mana regen, so he keeps getting as much clarities as he can, as the Ursa has a Diffusal Blade and the Nyx has his mana burn, so most of the fights he would barely have any of it to use his mana void, let alone have any mana for blink or counterspell. But even then the Anti-Mage simply cannot split push in this game, not until he has clear vision of Ursa and Nyx. Both of them can easily pick off Anti-Mage with little help from Storm. So, in this game, it's all about being patient and farming the woods and only split pushing when it's safe to do so. And by safe, I mean having vision on his kill threats. As long as Anti-Mage stays away from Nyx and Ursa, he's going to be fine this game, and the Divine player does just about that. Notice once again how he was cautious and only proceeded to push the creep wave and try any attempted split pushing after he had complete vision of the Ursa and the Nyx. And as soon as he had vision of Nyx TPing and he loses vision of the Ursa, he immediately backs off. You should see how determined the Nyx was in killing the Anti-Mage that he did not care about defending the tower nor try to deny it, thus reminding the Anti-Mage how difficult it's going to be to split push against players with such killer intent. The aggression from the Dire side does not stop by any chance, and Nyx and Ursa keep feeding off on the Lion, Earthshaker and the KOP. KOP is probably the most vulnerable person in this game, as Nyx can destroy her so easily. Surprisingly, Kunkka decides to join the feeding wagon as well, and the game is back to being Dire favored in no time. The Anti-Mage knew he couldn't do anything here, not until he can get his Skull Basher, and that is when he knew he can play aggressively and try to kill the Storm. So he waits it out to get just enough gold, and in the meantime his teammates keep dying one by one. How many times have you seen most Archon and Legend carries jumping into the fight prematurely without understanding their power spikes or watching the enemy team positioning? I'm pretty sure if this was an Archon Anti-Mage right here, he would have jumped in to kill the Storm without his Basher, would definitely get killed in an instant. But our anti-mage over here, as soon as he gets his items, jumps on low HP ogre and finishes him off, which is pretty standard for any player. But he understands very well that the enemy team is going to do something dumb here. Instead of hitting the T3 tower and getting back with their 7k gold lead, as he predicted, the Ursa jumped on him, then the Storm jumps on him, only to get stunned and bashed and finished off by the Lion's ultimate. It makes absolutely no sense for a Storm player to make that play there, but he did, and that is what Legend players need to understand. They are going to make these absurd mistakes which you can easily capitalize on if you simply just observe the map and the player positioning, instead of jumping in first like a baboon all the time. Soon the tower diving catapulted into a meaningless fountain dive by the Ursa for a kill on the Lion, which is so ridiculous, but it's like, hey AM, I have a wicked kill streak with me, you can take this kill if you like, I'm just being nice, kind of play. Then the Legend mentality of these players begin to show more and more, with the Nyx getting greedy for a kill on the Earth Spirit. Anti-Mage is nearby and got a huge bounty for finishing off his killing spree. After which his attention immediately shifts to the jungling Crystal Maiden for another easy kill. One by one they all fall apart and lose the 7k gold lead they had built up, bringing the game back to a stable state. So now with 3 of them down, the Anti-Mage decides to push. However, seeing that his kill threat Ursa is going to respawn, he backs off. Then having noticed Ursa TP'd bottom, he decides to pay him a visit since his whole team is there as well. One thing you must see is how quick his response time is when using his counterspell ability. There has not been a single time where the Crystal Maiden or the Ogre managed to land their root or stun on him when his counterspell was off CD. Besides having a great game-based knowledge, his mechanical skills top-notch as well. He did mention that the only reason that his game was even going this far was because of the way the Nyx was playing and how annoying he was to deal with the entire time. Once again, as you guys remember, this could have all been avoided had laning stage been a bit more dominant at the start and the Nyx was deprived of any real farm. A 2-4-4 trade quickly turns into a 2-4-5 trade as the QOP finished off the Storm with her Orchid and gets the top T3 and mid T2 tower. And this time the Anti-Mage gets the bottom tower and the melee racks. Once again, notice how the Anti-Mage waits for the perfect moment to use counterspell to block the stun and root from the Ogre as well as the CM, and then blinks on the CM for an easy kill. This in turn puts a 10k gold lead on the Radiant side, and slowly the Dire start messing up more and more as they lose the confidence that they had earlier. It becomes evident as they group up as 5 to get the kill on the Lion, thus opening up a chance for the Anti-Mage to counterattack on the Storm with his Abyssal, with the enemy team having no real way of stopping him. All of this was possible because the Nyx wasted his stun on the Lion earlier, which puts it on a 14-second CD, and he can't use the Anti-Mage either as he uses Manta right away. Once again, notice that the Anti-Mage always has 2 to 3 clarities with him, as Nyx mana burn drains away 300-350 of his mana each time. The Nyx was super annoying. He decided to get his Aghanims and sat right beside Anti-Mage and kept stunning and mana draining him whenever he could, thus delaying the push and buying as much time as he could. And it did work for a while, as he was able to predict the mid racks as well as the top melee racks. However, the same Nyx who was playing so well finally dug his own grave when he decided to kill the QOP with the help of Ursa. It was a good plan as the Earth Spirit was dead, so they were going to strike it was right about now. But the execution was completely horrendous and the QOP managed to blink away. The best bet was for them to run away at this point, but they chose to do a 3-2-2 instead, and both of them end up dying. Now, with both of his skill threats dead without buyback, the Anti-Mage has no reason to hold back and went for a straight push to the throne and ends the game. Once the game was over, the Anti-Mage did tell me that in the Legend bracket, especially in games where you're falling behind and you're playing cores who have huge comeback potential, it's best to sit back and analyze the map and the movement of the enemy team and the position of your teammates as well. At some point in the game, even when they are playing as 5, there's always going to be an opening where 1 or 2 of them would split from their teammates and break their formation. And if you have a keen eye, you would capitalize on that mistake, which leads to a chance for you to come back, as that one mistake leads the enemy into making another one and so forth. In Archon and Legend brackets, even all the way up to the Ancient bracket, this is mostly the case, and the game is almost never over unless the enemy team gets mega creeps at around 20 minutes or something like that. That's about it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, please do leave a rating and let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. So don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell notifications button to get notified whenever my next upload is up. Thank you for watching.